Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we have another news and rumor video here to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at signing for the past couple of days, some very interesting news pieces, and we've got some trade rumors involving the Senators, the Red Wings, and a couple of other teams. We'll touch on all this coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to the video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now, if you haven't already, leave a like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends the best hockey content on YouTube's right here. I would never be able to do this without all of your guys' support. I'm trying to hit 750 subscribers by the NHL draft. So if you can, definitely hit the subscribe button, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. On top of that, we also have a live stream coming up on Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time for round 1 of the NHL draft, and at 8:45 a.m. on Saturday for round 2. So I hope you guys are able to tune in for the draft live streams. We do these every year, and we also got some more videos coming in the very near future. But in today's video, we got some more news and rumors here to talk about. We're going to start off with the only signing that happened yesterday, and that was in the Edmonton Oilers organization. Connor Murphy, who's 33 years old, right shot defenseman, probably one of the better free agent defensemen that was going to market, is now not going to market. Murphy signs a 5-year contract with an AAV of $4.1 million to stay with the Edmonton Oilers. So once again, Murphy was acquired at a trade deadline by the Edmonton Oilers to sort of help round out their top 4 and really fit in quite well. Once again, the Oilers are planning on moving on from Darnell Nurse, so that's already going to be a top 4 loss. They didn't want to lose 2 top 4 defensemen, so they keep Murphy around. Once again, it's similar to with the Dickinson contract. The term is a little bit concerning, especially given the fact Murphy is 33 years old. That contract takes him until he's 38. So the last 2-3 years of that contract, I don't think are going to be overly good for the Edmonton Oilers. But for the next couple of years, I think this is pretty good. And for what he could have got on the open market, I think $4.1 million for a very solid second pair right-handed defensive defenseman, that's a steal in my opinion for the Edmonton Oilers. So I do like this deal a little bit more than the Dickinson one. Definitely don't like the term on it, leading him until he's 38. But once again, that was a really solid pickup of the trade deadline. Murphy this past year had 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points in 80 games with the Hawks and the Oilers combined. So not a bad pickup here from the Edmonton Oilers, and they're going to keep Connor Murphy off the free agent board. So very interesting note there. Murphy signs an extension in Edmonton, but that was the only signing for our past couple of days. Next, going over to a couple of pieces of news. So first, I think I mentioned this a couple days ago when I thought it was just going to be a 1-year extension, but apparently it's become official, and that is that the Utah Mammoths have signed Tourginy, their head coach right now, the person who helped lead them to the playoffs this year, the Utah Mammoths that is, has signed a multi-year extension to remain the Mammoth head coach. So I think he had a contract up until the end of next year, if I'm correct. So he's going to sign a multi-year extension. Not sure if that's like a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, but Tourginy's going to stay in the Utah Mammoth organization. Like I said, I think I already said that before, but it's just confirmed now. It's a multi-year extension, and Tourginy's going to be with the Utah Mammoth for the foreseeable future. Once again, he has a really good head coach. He's been with them since the Arizona days, and he just helped them make the playoffs. So, like, this isn't too much of a shock here for the Utah Mammoth. So not too surprising there. Next one goes over to a couple pieces of news regarding signings, extensions, free agency. Elliot Friedman on his recent 32 Thoughts podcast was talking about Sergei Bobrovsky and says that there's a lot of connections between Bobrovsky and Toronto, and he wonders if the Maple Leafs do try and go after Sergei Bobrovsky. He says that some of his former teammates from Florida is there, and guys like Stolars and Morantz, and once again, it sounds like Bobrovsky want to hit the open market right now. I don't think Toronto's pressing for a goaltender because they do have Hildeby, they have Stolars, so they can run with those two going into next year. But I mean, if you have Bobrovsky to your goaltending tandem, and you have Bobrovsky, Stolars, maybe Hildeby as a third stringer if Stolars gets injured, that would be very fantastic for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Once again, I think there might be other teams out there who would pay more than the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I can see the fit. If they run with the Bobrovsky-Stolars tandem going into the next season, that could be a scary team in Toronto. So once again, we're going to have to wait and see what happens here, but according to Elliot Friedman, there is some speculation that maybe Sergei Bobrovsky could go to Toronto, so very interesting to note there. According to Kevin Weeks, Eric Haula would like to stay with the Nashville Predators. According to some recent reports, he likes his time in Nashville over the past couple of years and has actually really liked playing there. So he wants to sign an extension in the Nashville Predators organization. It sounds like if he's not going to sign an extension, he's going to hit free agency. He's going to look for a contract at around the $3.5 million AAV mark, which I guess is a possibility. And I'm not exactly sure what Nashville wants to do with Eric Haula. Once again, Haula's been a pretty decent third-line center over the past couple of years with Jersey and now with Nashville. It's not a bad pickup here for Nashville if they do end up extending Eric Haula, as I do think think he could still be a really solid third-line center, but if they don't really want to sign him, then I could definitely see him go in free agency. So we're going to have to wait and see on that, but if Haula has it his way, he would like to stay in Nashville and not go and test free agency, so we'll have to keep an eye on that situation over the next couple of days. When it comes to Vladimir Tarasenko, he has recently changed agents from, I think it was CAA to Dan Milstein, and that indicates to a lot of people that I've seen that he's not going to be back with the Minnesota Wild. He's going to test free agency, and he changed agents to help facilitate a new contract. So that's very interesting note there. Once again, Tarasenko a couple of years ago signed a 2-year extension in Detroit after, I think, helping the Florida Panthers win a Stanley Cup, if I'm correct. So he went to Detroit, and then 2 years ago, he did not look overly good with the Detroit Red Wings, so they traded him for future considerations to Minnesota last year, and he actually had some pretty solid point totals, hitting above the 20-goal mark, hitting almost a 50-point plateau. So he's going to be a hot commodity with the free agent market very, very low and not a whole bunch of really solid NHL talent on the free agent market this year. I could see a couple of teams pay a 3 to 4 year deal for Tarasenko to be in their top 9. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there, but Tarasenko has changed agents, and it's very likely now that he's going to test free agency. And after the Brady Tkachuk trade, apparently Steve Staios does not want to have a replica situation with anything else like that, so he's gone to guys who are eligible to extend on July 1st, and is sort of talking about them what a contract extension could look like, and that's Artem Zub and Drake Batherson. Now, once again, these two guys are a year out from being UFAs. They both need contract extensions. Zub has been a pretty solid top for the defenseman since they brought him over from the KHL, and Batherson, who they drafted, has turned into a really elite top 6 winger. So it seems like Staios wants to get ahead of the game and try and sign these two guys to maybe extensions and not have to go through a similar situation than what they just had to do with Brady Tkachuk. So it sounds like Batherson and Zub are talking about potential contract extension. Once again, they can't officially sign an extension until July 1st, but both those guys would make some sense for extensions. I think Batherson probably gets a 5 to 6 year deal at around the $7 to $8 million mark, and I do think that Zub probably gets a 3 to 4 year deal at around the $5 million AAV mark, maybe closer to $6 million. So it'll be very interesting to note there. But after the Tkachuk trade, it seems like Staios is covering his bases with Batherson and Zub a year out from unrestricted free agency. So very interesting to note there. And yesterday we did also get the announcement for the Hockey Hall of Fame. So once again, 6 people were inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. On the women's side, it was Curley. On the builder side, it was Burke. And then on the player side, 3 very recent players were inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, one a little bit more older, and that is Patrice Bergeron, Pekka Rinne, Carey Price, and Keith Tkachuk. Those 4 players were all inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So Tkachuk has been there for a little bit of time now, eligible to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he has officially done so, so very interesting to note there. And then you got Rinne, who for a long period of time was one of the best goaltenders in the NHL and the Preds' backbone and net, and helped the Preds go to the Stanley Cup final back almost a decade ago, I think now. Price was one of the best goaltenders in the NHL for a long period of time, maybe even the best goaltender in the NHL. And then, of course, Patrice Bergeron, who recently got word is going to have his number hanged by the Boston Bruins, has also been recently playing at the NHL level. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. Only retired for a couple of years, and Bergeron's been fantastic. So once again, very interesting note there, but Bergeron, Rinne, Price, Tkachuk, as well as Curley and Burke have all been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So very interesting to note there. And lastly here, going over to a couple of trade rumors. We've got a few things here to talk about today. First, when it comes to the Ottawa Senators. Now, we talked about yesterday about how Jason Robertson was a name that the Ottawa Senators were trying to push for. And it's still a possibility, but there has been a lot of reports that come out that have said that Jason Robertson doesn't really want to sign a deal with the Ottawa Senators right now. Once again, things could change, but it seems like at this point it's not going to happen, even though it sounds like Robertson's negotiations are a little bit shaky at this point. So very interesting to note there. But now there's a couple of other names that have been linked to the Ottawa Senators, according to Bruce Garrioch, that have made some very interesting potential options here. According to Garrioch, he says that the Senators are upping their offer on Ducks center Mason McTavish and are kicking tires on Alexis Lafreniere. So once again, the Sens now have a whole bunch of draft capital. I could see them go after 2 separate players. They're trying to replace Brady Tkachuk. They already needed a top 6 forward anyways, and now they have the draft capital to do so. So it'll be very interesting to see how they navigate the next couple of days leading up to the draft. Now, for the McTavish side, he has connections to Ontario. I think he played junior hockey there, and I think he's actually from Ontario or something like that. So McTavish does have a whole bunch of connections to the Ontario area. Once again, he signed on a longer-term deal, 5 years. I think it is around $7 million, and he's a really solid second-line center. Once again, he sort of fell out of favor in Anaheim this past year. Is he a Tkachuk replacement? Absolutely not. But I think at his peak, he could put like 50 to 60 points. So if the Senators were to pony up an offer of like maybe 25th overall, a second-round pick in a couple of years' time, maybe one of their top prospects like a Haula or a Hensler, I could see the Ducks maybe try and pull the trigger on something like that. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but it does seem like the Sens have some serious interest in McTavish, which I wouldn't be too upset about. And then, of course, they also have interest in Lafreniere. Once again, Lafreniere is in, I think, the second or third year of a long-term extension. And once again, last year, he didn't do overly well at the start of it, but after the trade of Panarin, and he sort of got an elevated role, Lafreniere did fantastic for New York. And he's looked really good. So I'm not sure if the Rangers are going to be overly open to moving Alexis Lafreniere. But they're a rebuilding team, and if the Sens offer maybe 9th overall and some other things for Lafreniere, I could see the Rangers have some interest in that. Once again, Lafreniere, he's not Brady Tkachuk, but he plays Brady Tkachuk style of hockey. He's a power forward, uses his body to his advantage, and can play in the top six. So like these are two names now that seem to be coming up as potential landing spots for Ottawa as they try and continue to look for a Tkachuk replacement and maybe trying to improve this top six even further. It seems like now they're pushing hard for McTavish and Lafreniere. So very interesting to note there. When it comes to Valeri Nichushkin, Lafreniere recently mentioned on the 32 Thoughts podcast that Nichushkin's name has started to come up in trade rumors. So that's very interesting to note there. Once again, the Avalanche are pressed for cap space right now. After the Colin trade, I think they have around $6 million, maybe closer to $7 million in cap space. But that's not going to be enough to really help improve this team a whole bunch. So it seems like they're going to try and get creative and maybe try and move Valeri Nichushkin to get some sort of other help. Now, that's very interesting to note there. I think Nichushkin signed for a couple more years. I think it's like 3 or 4 more years at a $7 million AAV. Once again, he's had problems in the past. The playoffs, he's had a couple of leaves of absences from the team due to unknown reasons. Once again, he has had some injury troubles over the past little while, but he's still a really solid top six power forward type guy who can put up 25 to 30 goals and around 50 to 60, close to 70 points any given season. So once again, he's going to be a really solid add if the Avalanche do trade him for the acquiring team. And I think it would probably take a roster swap of players to acquire Val Nichushkin from Colorado. Like I'm thinking they have to probably give up a top 4 defenseman or a top 6 forward in order to get Valeri Nichushkin. So very interesting note there, both the Avalanche and their current cap crunch right now and needing some cap space. It seems like they might turn to Valeri Nichushkin to free up some cap space. Well, I don't think it's the greatest of ways for the Avalanche to currently right now to free up some cap space. Once again, with all the trouble they've had over the past couple of years, I could see it, and I could see a couple of teams have some serious interest in Nichushkin. So very interesting to note there. And lastly, going over to Nick Kyperos once again, he's a pretty solid insider, but not as credible as guys like Elliot Friedman. So I do take things that he says with a grain of salt. But he did recently come out and say that Dylan Larkin's preferred destination to go is the Dallas Stars. So that's very interesting to note there. We heard about a couple of weeks ago that Larkin's original list that he wanted to be traded to would be Minnesota, Florida, or Vegas. And now it seems like he wants to go to Dallas. So, I don't know if this is very likely information or if this is just speculation. Like, I don't know exactly for sure. But I could see Larkin be a solid fit for Dallas because it has been linked there quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. Now, the second thing is, I don't know how the Dallas Stars pull this off if Larkin does really want to go to Dallas. They already have a couple of really solid centers, and guys like Sagan and Ben Johnson can play center, Bork can play center, so they have a lot of really solid centers. So I don't know why Dallas would really want to pull off a Dylan Larkin deal. But on the second half of things, they have $10 million in cap space. Larkin makes $8 million, and Jason Robertson needs an extension of $12 to $14 million. You're going to barely be able to get an extension for Robertson, even if you just move a guy like Ilya Lyubushkin. It's like, I have no clue how they would fit a Dylan Larkin cap it into their system. They'd have to move a big contract like Tyler Sagan or a Rupe Hintz in order to make that sort of a deal happen. So it'll be very interesting to note there. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen there. It does seem like Dallas has some interest. It seems like Larkin at this point in time would like to go to Dallas. So we'll see if there's a deal that comes to fruition. At this point in time, though, I just can't see Dallas pull it off. A, because I don't think they need a center, and B, because they have nowhere near enough cap space to pull that sort of a deal off. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but it does seem like Larkin would like to go to Dallas, according to Nick Kyperos. So very interesting out there. I just can't see it at this point in time. So that's all I want to talk about for today. I'll let you guys thoughts on these things down in the comment section below. Do you think Larkin gets moved to Dallas? And if so, what sort of a trade package could the Red Wings get? Do the Colorado Avalanche move Val Nichushkin? If so, to where? And could the Ottawa Senators pull off a trade package for Mason McTavish or Alexis Lafreniere? And if so, what sort of a return could those two teams get? Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, if you're like to subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, leave a like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends. The best hockey content on YouTube is right here at the End to End Hockey channel, and we're trying to hit 750 subscribers in the very near future. Also, I do a blog to news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. Stay tuned for Friday's live stream at 5 p.m. Mountain Time for round 1 of the NHL's entry draft, so if you guys are able to tune in for that one. And I also have a Buy Me a Coffee page. It's just a site that I made that allows you guys to help support the channel. So if you guys want to and you like what I do here, go over to my Buy Me a Coffee page and make a donation. I really do appreciate all of you guys, your support. Hope you guys like this video. Stay tuned for more coming on in the very near future, and I can't wait to see you guys all then. God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.